Talk for me, Connor.
Hey, hey, what's going on? Dune dudes. I wanna know. Have
Oh
you
wait, 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 wait,
ever?
wait, 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 wait. Now I got it. Now I got it.
I don't know. You sound different again. It's like you sound different. It's weird. I feel like I haven't fully considered this as a thought, but Eric from Foxy just full on has a mullet, huh?
Okay. Talk. Okay, now I can hear.
You
Talk.
still sound weird. Are you sure?
I sound weird. What do you mean? Do I sound faint?
You just sound kind of distant,
Really? I
a
can hear
little more
myself.
distant.
How about that? No. This is even worse.
No.
I sound distant. Really? I'm very, very loud in my ears. Shut up,
That's funny. Tell Alex I said good one.
Connor. Like that. Um. Yeah. Can you hear
No,
me
no.
decently or?
Yeah, no, no. I mean,
Okay.
I can hear you fine. Just you sound fainter than you did before you did all your shit. So, but as long as you think it sounds good, as long as you think it'll record the way it should, then it's
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, in my monitors, I'm borderline too loud. So
All right. How do I sound?
you sound great. Fantastic.
All right.
All right. So
All right. Hey, everyone. All dudes from around the galaxy. Uh, we're your dudes
hell yeah.
of Dune. I'm wearing my Bowie shirt today. We ain't the thin white Duke. We're the thin white dudes.
You heard it here first.
You know what I'm
We are the thin white dudes,
saying?
and instead of going on, a many years long cocaine bender, we're going on a many years long spice bender.
Yes. Yep.
It's famously what Bowie did during that time.
Oh, so not just white because he was pasty and pale.
That was a part of it. It was also the cocaine.
I see. Gotcha. A little bit of both.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Nice. Um.
And so today there's two firsts that we are experiencing today.
Hmm.
One, I think this is the first time we both. Well, probably not the first time, but one of the very rare times that we have both finished our chapters on the same day.
Yeah. True.
And yeah, so that's very exciting. I actually finished first earlier in the day. This
Yes.
never happened. Um, but um, the second thing is we are live streaming this to the internet right now.
Yeah, that is remarkable.
We are testing this, for future things. So if shit hits the fan, it's all in the name of progress.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, we're just working on things. It's
If what shit hits the fan, what shit are we talking about?
if like this episode like turns out all wonky or weird sounding, like it's because we're trying something new.
Oh, okay. And Leto does say it's the pursuit of that newness that
Yes,
makes life worth living.
exactly. I could not agree more. Oh man, yeah. I feel like I do have a lot of thoughts on Leto as a character, especially with these last five chapters. Um, uh, yeah. There's a lot to say,
Yeah,
and
he's a very zesty worm
he is a
in these
zesty worm.
chapters.
Yeah, he is. Um, anything else you want to say for small talk, or do you want to just
I, I,
jump
I,
into it?
I just wanted to mention, this episode almost didn't happen tonight. Um,
Very, very close.
solely because of myself. Um, because we were scheduled to podcast yesterday, but I hadn't read enough, and then I ended up like falling asleep on the couch after watching Great British Bake Off at like 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I lost like a full night of reading that I thought I was gonna have, and then today I had work and everything, and then I had to shower. I mean, if you could have smelled me, Connor.
Yeah, I'm
You,
sure you
you want
were.
you want to talk about a zesty worm?
Sure,
All
you were a
right.
very
I
smelly
mean,
bloke.
yeah. So anyways, I did get my reading done at a reasonable time for us to do this, but I want to say, I know that later on a Thursday night is not your ideal time because you have work tomorrow.
I
This is
do.
this is your Sunday.
Yeah, it's my Sunday night. I mean, I don't have to work until 3 tomorrow, so it's
Hey,
okay.
even so, I just want to say, uh, thanks for you know working with me as ever. Because
Hey,
I know I'm not always an easy person to work with. I was like, oh, maybe we'll do it this day, reschedule a whole day, and then on the day we reschedule to, I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe we'll do it on Sunday. Sunday doesn't work. Maybe we'll do it next week. Whatever. Just a bunch of bullshit, really.
yeah, a lot of BS.
So, which maybe that's what you kind of predicted in the end too. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm just the Duncan to your Leto, and you're just like, oh, he's on this pattern now. He's just spouting out all this inane bullshit
Yeah. No, I can tell.
as ever.
It's it's
So
it's something I'm used to.
I know.
I come to terms with it. But I appreciate you owning it, and
I totally own it. If there's
you
one thing
do.
I
It's
learned
true.
from last season, it's that you can't pass the buck on these things. You
No, you
need to
can't.
accept the blame wholeheartedly, and
Yep.
today it rests with me.
It's
So
true.
that's all. Just wanted to clear the air from one dude to another. Um, but without further ado, let's sing our fucking song.
We gotta sing it. We
We
gotta sing it,
we are
baby.
legally bound at this point, actually,
Yep.
to sing it.
Yep.
We really shouldn't have signed that contract, but we did, and it's too late.
Yeah,
So
I mean, yeah, we will be slaughtered if we refuse.
yeah, it's,
Um,
really should have read the fine print there, but
and a one, and a two, and a one, two, three, four. God,
God,
Emperor of
Emperor of
Dune,
Dune,
worm
Wormman
I
I
love,
love,
stand
stand
beside
beside
him
him
and
and
guide
guide
him
him
through the
down the
golden
golden
path
path
he's
he's
chosen,
chosen.
through the
The
Kralizak,
Kralizak,
for a
for a
thousand years
thousand
of
years of
Leto's
Leto's
peace.
peace.
One
One
day we'll
day
miss
we'll miss
Muad'Dib,
Muad'Dib,
God
God,
Emperor of
Emperor of
Doom,
Dune,
the
the
worm
worm
man
man
we
we
love.
love.
Wow.
Yeah, nice, right? And you didn't even text me the lyrics.
I didn't. No, no. You got him down. You got him down pat.
Yeah. The first time you sang me that song, I was like, wow, it's so long.
Yep.
I mean, as ever too. Talk about predictability. I feel like I'm actually I'm a lot like Monio. I'm very cautious when it comes to change. I don't like
Yes.
it, to be honest. I'm very prickly, um, very reserved. But then as it kind of unfolds, it feels like I see the reason more and more. This song's grown on me. I have to say. I think it
Hey,
was a
well,
great choice
I'm glad. I'm glad you
for
enjoyed.
this strange book
Yes.
journey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It kind of works. I mean, the book is very strange. It's easily the strangest of the Dune saga so far.
yeah, actually, yeah, I'd have to say that it is. One thing that I was thinking about a point of like separation from this book and the others. We've been talking about how like Herbert kind of writes with he also has like familiar patterns about him, right? Where like we kind of do the whole like he tells you what's going to happen, and then you read it happening, and it happens, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think what's interesting here, I think this applies more so to Messiah and Children of Dune as a point of separation. But like in those two books, it feels like the plans that we were told at the outset um, were like revealed to us like kind of more in their entirety. Whereas like with this, like we sort of only vaguely know what the plan is,
yeah,
and like it's coming from the perspective of like the planners. I guess what I want to try and say, I think it has more to do with the perspective, where like in terms of the conspiracy in Messiah, it's the bad guys that are coming up with that, right? And so like we're kind of wondering like how is Paul gonna like deal with this unfolding plan, or like with the Carinos and the plot in Children of Dune, it's like how are the other characters going to deal with this big plan as it unfolds? But like here with Leto and Monio and everyone else who we're mainly following, they're the ones creating the plan. It's like if the conspirators were the main characters in Messiah, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like if the whole book was about Scytale and then Paul was just like the character it was affecting on the side, like
yeah,
Siona. And so I think that's been like a weird thing too to like read through and feel like there's been this kind of profound perspective shift in a way. Like the other books are kind of always following these larger than life royalty characters for the most part. But here it's like, obviously taken to this crazy extreme, and he's the one like unfolding the plan that like we don't fully understand as it relates to like some of the other characters, but we do get more insight into that here.
yeah. We do.
Does that make sense? I don't
Oh
know if I
yeah.
articulated what I'm trying to say exactly,
I
but
mean,
like,
no, it does make sense to me. I think you're absolutely right. Um, Herbert does kind of take a different approach here. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's an extremely different reading experience. Um, and I think there's like such like a difference between Leto's prescience and like I feel like Paul's prescience, where
yeah,
uh, a lot of what Paul was seeing was the inevitable, and he was kind of railing against it or dreading that. But what Leto like sees is everything, and but he can purposely kind of black parts out that he does not want to be revealed, and he kind of I don't know, he's like keeping the future blank, which I feel like is something that Paul never was able to do. Um, yeah, I mean, so they ended up being two very different characters, Paul and Leto.
yeah,
And I do feel like Leto is the more interesting character. Um, but yeah, vastly different. And I feel like Herbert's writing was similar, like during the Paul, and then you know, I guess early Leto with Children of Dune. During those days, they still didn't really have that control over prescience. Similarly to how we didn't have control over, oh, Herbert's going to tell us everything that happens, and then we watch it unfold.
mm-hmm.
But now we do have control over prescience, and we're along for the ride with Leto. For some of that surprise.
Yeah,
So I think that's
yeah. No,
it does kind of mirror the book as well.
yeah, true. I like that idea. That's cool. All right, how about we talk about what happens in these 5 chapters
Yes,
that we both just finished reading today?
yes. I've got two thoughts though that I kind of want to. I guess before we get into the plot, I think I want
Yeah,
to
yeah, sure.
bring them up. Um, one, this is something that I took this note when I first started reading these 5 chapters, and it was because it's something that was on my mind because of things that are happening in my workplace. Um, I thought that Leto, God Emperor Leto II, is like the micromanager of the universe,
Yeah.
right? Like that's his role.
Yes.
Just breathing down your shoulder, controlling everything you do, even if he's not a bad boss or whatever, but he just has that aura where he's everywhere, and nothing anyone does is gets away from him or is not in his plan. So that was a crazy realization that I had. Just to bring micromanagement to that cosmic scale is terrifying.
Yeah.
Um, Another thought I had today, actually, right after I finished reading these 5 chapters, was that Leto and one of our other favorite fictional near immortals, the Doctor, they they have like similar powers. Like the Doctor can see the future. A lot of he kind of can see or can kind of feel time, moving around them, and just how easily the Doctor could have been like, okay, well, I'm gonna do what Leto did and become the Emperor of the universe with all the power that I have.
Yeah.
And so it made me think like it would be cool to see in Doctor Who kind of a villain that is like Leto, is yeah, kind of this all powerful godlike creature, and it would be the ultimate, do the ends justify the means Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, I would love to see Stephen Moffat tackle that.
Yeah, I think it's fodder for some good shit.
I'm surprised that I feel like given all the episodes, there has to be some sort of like near equivalent, right? Like some sort of godlike character that the Doctors come up against.
Yeah, there are, but I mean,
Not in the same way.
no, in Doctor Who, like like godlike creatures have rarely ever been portrayed in the modern series, but in the classic series, they were portrayed as more like just like very detached from humanity, and didn't really care about whether they lived or died.
Right.
Which is the opposite of what Leto is, which I think makes it so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Like Leto is concerned with like the number crunching of humanity, and
Yeah,
the Doctor is very
yeah,
concerned with the I don't know. I was gonna. It's weird because the words that I'm drawn to are like freedom and emotion, which is kind of what the last 2 chapters grapple with.
yeah.
Leto's struggle and kind of like newfound, or not newfound, but like rediscovered
Yeah, yep. Returning emotion.
um, joy of right emotion and just feeling those feelings. But we can get to that because I don't know, like that whole conversation with Leto and Duncan, especially. I feel like Leto keeps trying to be like, "Oh, Duncan, if only you could understand," and I'm like, I don't mean, there's definitely times where me and Duncan are misunderstanding the same things because I'm like,
Yeah.
I think
Oh, same here.
Duncan raises some good points,
Yeah.
about
Agreed.
stifling like true freedoms,
Yeah. Yep.
that Leto thinks that he's just missing like this grander picture, and
Yep. Yep. Yep.
we
Yeah.
kind of keep coming back to that whole like, well, we'll see, like
I
what
know.
what is the end game,
I
but yeah,
know.
it's an interesting conversation to have.
I mean, I don't think in any way, shape, or form will we finish this book and be like, oh yeah, I would have done what Leto did. But
Right,
like,
right, right.
if it saves the human race, like I don't know, because the Doctor has seen the human race die. He's seen that whole thing start and end. You know, and he could have done, he could have done something to prevent it, um, but I guess kind of rejects that kind of power,
Yeah.
even if it, would thrust humanity into a new uh prosperous age.
Right. No, I mean, he wouldn't even make one person suffer
Yeah, exactly,
intentionally if it
exactly.
meant
Yep.
to save all of humanity.
Yeah. Yep. Precisely.
Um, you know, he's much more primate in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say that word because I think it's weird that Leto brings this up several times throughout these chapters. Like he's thinking of Hui and he's like, I keep forgetting that she's such a primate and
I
I am
know.
not. And
I'm
I'm
no
like,
longer.
okay,
Yeah.
buddy,
I'm
yeah.
no longer a primate. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of continues to be a lot of very interesting things
Yeah.
that happen.
I just want to mention, okay, one really last thing
Yeah.
before we actually dive into the chapters. But since you brought up Doctor Who, um, I saw that your guitar shipped.
Yes.
You got the
Yes.
12th Doctor's guitar,
I did. Yes. Yes.
which is fucking sick.
I am super fucking excited. From the first time I saw that guitar being played on the show.
Is the first time he plays it when he's like on the tank coming out of the arena,
It
or
is.
does he have it? It is then.
Yeah.
It is then.
It's
Yeah.
the tank
Nice.
scene.
Nice.
Yeah, which yeah, I've always thought it was, beautiful and alien, and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. So, um I was very excited to find out that it actually existed,
Yeah.
and ever since then I've been kind of like keeping an eye on it to see if like there's any uh affordable sales online, people selling theirs, and it's always been in it's always been kind of like in the 800 to like $1,200 range, um which I've never really had to like throw down on a guitar. Um, and then I got the stimulus, got the Biden bucks,
Yeah.
and I was like, hey, I found one for a very good price, and I haggled. Thanks to your advice,
You haggled. You
I
did.
did, yeah, because it was going for $609, and the offer that I made him was $475.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so he responded back within the hour with 507.
Oh
And I
shit.
yeah, and I was like, okay, well that's it.
Perfect. Yeah. Very
I
good.
bought it. Yeah. So yeah, I was not expecting him to counteroffer that
That.
low. So
Yeah. No. No. You definitely would expect them to go higher. So that was
yeah,
solid. Yeah. No. You always gotta. Yeah. If you're not buying from like an actual store, like if it's a person, you always gotta haggle.
yeah,
So.
absolutely. I mean, you know that with your dealings on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. Yep. Yes, I do. All right. I don't have any like clever segue from haggling into Dune, so let's just fucking do it.
Let's just do
You
it.
ready?
I am.
All right. So this first chapter, I got to refresh my memory, so I'm gonna be kind of flipping through it. We have what Leto and Hui. Okay, Leto and Hui. Um, and what happens here? Do you remember this chapter very well? Do you have anything you'd say while I'm
Yeah, I mean,
kind of looking through it?
I didn't read these until I read actually the first four last night, and then I read the last one today. So
Oh, I'm seeing. So this is the conversation with Leto and Hui, kind of about the scope of his plan. I think it's a lot of like Hui
yeah,
kind of um trying to figure out why Leto does these things. Like, what is the reasoning behind his actions and his plan? Um, and I don't. I mean, some of it I remember liking. Some of it I thought was, again, kind of like questionable or odd. Or I'd be like, I'm not sure if this like adds up exactly. Especially, so there's this part In fact, I think I can just find the line probably. Yeah, it's right here. Okay, so it has to do with Hui. It gets to this point of the conversation where Hui's like, well, a lot of people are gonna die, and Leto's like, yeah, a lot of people are gonna die. Like people everywhere
Yeah, and
are going
suffer.
to collectively die. Like so many people. Um, and she says, "Won't the rich escape?" And then he says, "Some of them." And her response is, "Then you haven't really changed anything. We will just go on struggling and dying." So quickly, before I go to Leto's response to that, I really like that her focus is still on like this classism and this
Yeah.
injustice. I think they use the words injustice a lot when it comes to Hui as well.
Yep.
Um, she kind of has like this very like um almost like binary version of like right and wrong,
Yep.
like and so like she sees very clearly that people hoarding this insane wealth and lording it over the commoners is wrong, right? So she's like, so what? Everyone's gonna die, but I mean, like, more poor people are going to die than rich people, right? They're not going to have the means to save themselves.
Yeah.
And Leto's like, yeah, essentially. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
um, and so Hui's really quick to point out, like, well, so how's that not just going to restructure itself eventually into the same society that you're trying to destroy,
Mm.
right? Leto says, until the sandworm reigns once more on Arrakis, we will have tested ourselves by then with a profound experience shared by all. We will have learned that a thing which can happen on one planet can happen on any planet. So Leto's response to that pretty much is like, it doesn't matter if all the rich people like survive and only everyone else died. It seems to be like that if enough people everywhere die in like a certain amount, that that all of humanity is going to have like this collective like understanding of what death means in a more profound way, right?
Sorry, repeat that. My my girlfriend was showing me a box. You want to
Oh,
come show the
is it a
podcast
nice
a box?
box? Why just a box?
This is the box that our old Wi-Fi our old Wi-Fi provider Frontier gave us to ship our old modem back to them.
Can you move your giant head so I can see the box? Oh, it looks bad. It looks like a bad. It doesn't even. It looks like cardboard.
It's all crumpled up in
I
there,
mean, it
and
is
there's no
cardboard, but like it
instructions.
looks like paper. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
fucked up.
it's very bad.
Yikes.
Well, that was the box portion of our show. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, sorry about that.
You
What
should
was
just
the
get a different box. Oh,
I know.
so it seems to be from Leto's response, like he seems to be implying like it doesn't matter that uh wealthier people will have the means to survive it in greater numbers than poor people or the
Yeah.
less fortunate, because like the amount of people that are going to die everywhere from this event is going to be like so cataclysmic that all of humanity will undergo a reckoning in some fashion. Like all people will recognize death in a more profound way.
Yes, and that will draw them all together,
Right.
regardless of class.
So right. So like one, I don't know. I obviously this kind of goes back to like our talks on our own political leanings and everything, but I really appreciate Hui's sharp criticism there, being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, doesn't it matter?" like, and for the purposes of Leto's plan, though, and what's going on here, I'm gonna accept that it doesn't matter, right? I'm going along with Leto. So what? Okay, so more rich people will live, whatever. Um, but I feel like this also gives us so much illumination onto the golden path, you
Yep.
know, in a way that we've, again, like been aware of in different ways, but I feel like Leto says it like really clearly here, and it's worth talking about because it seems like so the golden plant path is going to be set up the society where everyone's like totally dependent on Leto. Something is going to happen where like billions of people are going to die in this incredibly short amount of time,
Well,
and then
yeah.
Leto's gonna explode into a million worms on Arrakis, and then what? Like everything's gonna be okay after that? Like people are gonna have a newfound will to live and travel and
I know.
explore new frontiers.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
is
the
that the
frontiers.
plan?
I
Is
know.
that the plan? That's
I
how
think
I understand it.
I
Is that
think
how you
that's the
understand it?
I think that's pretty much the plan. Because once Leto dies, there's not going to be anybody to allocate the spice, I guess, and I think that will cause great suffering in a lot of ways, and it's going to take I'm assuming generations for sandworms to flourish on Arrakis again to start producing spice. Um, but by then, apparently, humanity will have grown up and will actually value life for what it's worth after dealing with near extinction and mass suffering and um, why in great number. I guess that's the idea. Um,
I guess so too.
and I mean, I guess the like he never says it, but like I guess everyone will be suffering to the point where like class won't matter, which I don't really buy. It's kind of something that he sweeps under the rug. It's like
Yeah,
yeah, it's more of the aristocrat talk, right? He is an aristocrat, and he like I mean that's just his family lineage. So I mean, sure he can go back. I'm sure he can go back to a time where he was a pleb or whatever. But it seems like within his history, like his personal like lineage, seems like that is not the majority of the lives he's experienced or that live within him. It seems like the majority of the lives that he holds within were people held in very high regard, with great stature. So I don't know. It's interesting. The class analysis is very interesting, and it has not gotten to the point where I feel like it is doing a satisfactory job of explaining, not only the current society, Leto's reign, but also how he envisions those dynamics to work once he is gone.
totally. Yeah. Spot on. And I feel like at this point in the book too, like I've kind of given up hope on like getting more clarification on Leo society. It
Yeah.
feels like what we have is what we have pretty
Mm-hmm.
much. And we're gonna be made to fill in the numerous gaps just on our own for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of what the next society will be, um, I forget if it's this conversation with Hui or if it's another one, but like, I think it is this chapter. Leto is saying he's talking about how everything goes in like these patterns or cycles, and that if you understand the shape of his empire, you should be able to predict or understand what the shape of what he wants to accomplish will be, what the
Yeah,
thing
because
following the downfall of his empire will be.
it's all reactionary, right?
Yeah. So I liked that I like that idea, and I like too that Hui is like, oh, I kind of knew that you would be this way because I had studied like the other Atreides or like the previous Atreides
Yeah.
rulings for so long that like she was kind of able to predict how Leto would be, and I guess that all kind of goes to her training to like slide in and affect him in the way that she has, whether she wants to or not.
Yeah.
Um, but she isn't really able to fully grasp or understand what the next step is going to be, and like so us two are kind of like I don't know. It kind of like got me thinking like what is that thing going to be, and like what is this shape of the empire too? Like there's so many pieces to Leto's rule when it comes to like the fish speakers or the religion or the spice hoarding or um the groups, the factions that he allows to make all these contraband things or not, or like the like he picks and chooses so many different things, and his hand is in every conceivable pot.
Yep.
Like we have learned a lot about his empire in a lot of ways, but like
It's just
it feels like there's not a lot like tying it together. Sometimes I think is the
yeah.
hard part.
No, that's a good point. I mean, it's tough because it's like, well, do I want because this is an entire empire full, planets, galaxies, however huge this fucking rule is. Um, like to get a satisfactory rundown of that, like that's an entire book. That's like a history book, which Frank Herbert could do. He could have done that, and that would have been actually very entertaining.
Yeah,
But that's not the story he wanted to tell. Um, the story he wanted to tell, it feels like again going back to just it's like his critique on society and the logical conclusion to how he sees society progressing.
yeah,
And within that you do get great characters like you know the Duncan, uh, Monio, Siona, Hui. Like I like all the Antioch is they're like uh, but it feels like a story within like a story within kind of like a philosophy lecture, I guess.
yeah.
Which I enjoy. Like I like that about it. Because
I think I would enjoy it more if I thought the philosophy and the lecturing was more progressive and thought through
yeah.
entirely.
Well, it's
But
it's
but yeah,
yeah.
as like an idea, yes.
It's not super progressive. There like like we've discussed this before. There are bits and pieces that do feel like they're on the right track. Um, but I kind of like it regardless of how much I agree with Leto because what I'm trying to do is separate Leto from Frank Herbert, and think of Leto as this actual cosmic tyrant
Mm-hmm.
with all these powers and this crazy idea that I don't have to agree with. Um, yeah. So I mean, taking Herbert out of the equation is I feel like it adds to my enjoyment of the book because then I don't
Totally.
because then that way I don't have to
Of
be
course
like
it would.
yeah because like that way I don't have to be like oh the guy who's writing this is like kind of fucked up and like
Yeah.
has some really out there ideas. But now I'm just thinking like oh this character has some pretty wild ideas.
Hey, that's fair to kind of do like the whole a bit of a death of the author kind of thing. I don't know. To me, it feels like choosing to go through hurdles to rationalize what I do think are
Yeah,
Herbert's opinions.
yeah. No,
But
I think you're right.
that's I'm also not trying to like shit on you or
And
criticizing
No,
you
no, no. I
for
mean,
taking that route because
you can't ever separate the art from the artist entirely. People have tried to do that. I don't feel like anyone can really do that. There's still going to be a part in the back of your brain thinking like, oh, this person is a piece of shit. Um, I don't know. I don't think I would call Frank Herbert a piece of shit. I don't know him well enough, but some of the opinions definitely, some of the opinions in this book definitely make me lean towards. I you know I
it's
it's just
okay.
it's hard.
That's
It's just
not what
it's
that's
hard
not
to
what
say.
this discussion needs to be. I just wanted to bring it up because you
Yeah.
brought it up. That's all.
No, I
But I
know.
mean,
Yeah, it's
also you're probably getting way more immersed into this sci-fi world if that's the way you're going. So
yeah. I mean, I find it very interesting, um, and engrossing, and I feel like it is kind of a. It feels like a nice break from what the rest of Dune is, and maybe what we're going back to with Heretics. I don't know. Yeah.
I just want to mention maybe like two more quick things about this chapter. Hopefully quick. I feel like especially with Leto and Hui. I mean, Leto does this with everyone, but I kind of feel like with Hui, it's like maybe I just notice it more or just feels more of this way to me. But it seems like a lot of times, like Leto will be wormsplaining at
Oh
Hui.
boy. Oh yeah.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And she'll be like, "Oh, I don't understand. Like, explain it to me, Lord, or teach me, or this and that." And then will kind of just be like a lot of I don't know, like pedantic, flowery bullshit.
Yeah.
And then Herbert will just be like, Hui's eyes went wide with understanding,
Yep.
and she won't really like say anything exactly, or I feel like her response doesn't really give me a lot of
Yeah.
clarification on what she now understands. Like there's this line. I'm not looking right at it, so I'm probably paraphrasing here, but when like Hui's saying that she doesn't understand something about the fish speakers, and then like Leto kind of explains it, and it's like, oh, Leto could tell that she understood, and Leto's kind of thinks to himself or says like even Monio doesn't fully understand,
Yep.
the extent of my plan with the fish speakers, and I'm like, what does Hui understand about the fish speakers? I'm like, I don't understand.
I know.
It feels like Herbert's just telling me, which I guess fair enough. I don't if it's meant to be something to be revealed later, it's not that I necessarily need to see it in that moment, but it doesn't feel to me like all the pieces are there for me to like have this crystallizing moment of understanding along with Hui.
Yeah.
So instead, it kind of feels a bit like the author just being like addressing a criticism with an answer that they fabricate out of their own that can't be argued against. They're like, well, this might seem confusing, but they get it, so that's the end of it. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you? Do you see where I'm getting a little frustrated by that,
No,
or do you feel that way as well?
I do feel similarly. I think there is parts where Leto goes on these ramblings of explanation, like you said, these like flowery explanations that say very little, but you know through a lot of words, and then yeah, we understands, but we don't understand. It's I definitely feel more similarly to Duncan than to Hui.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm not convinced that Hui actually understands entirely either.
yeah,
I think she might just be going along with some of what he says. Um, but yeah, I do get that frustration.
yeah. Um, and I think otherwise, the chapter ends. Hui and Antioch are going to go back to Ix under this guise of like checking out this new Ixian weapon that he knows that they're making. but that's not really what they're doing at all. They really want to find out about Hui's birthplace,
Yes.
and I like I like Hui's line. Uh, Leto says, "Make sure she, meaning Antioch, knows what she's looking for." Talking about Hui's birthplace or whatever. And Hui says, "For my genesis, you and I already know my purpose." And then Leto says, "Which is not separated from its source." Um, which I thought was a cool line because it kind of goes back to when they were talking about the cyclical nature of things and the patterns that emerge from preceding patterns
Yeah.
when like the fall of his empire into what the new form of the golden path will be. And so similarly, if they can get more information, if they can have a clearer understanding of Hui's origin, then in theory, they should have, perfect, full knowledge of everything about her.
Yeah.
That she's kind of just been this series of patterns progressing through life from that one point, just like all people are.
Yeah.
This kind of claims. So, um, that I thought was cool. That made sense to me, and I was like, okay, I get why Hui thinks that, and I get why Leto thinks that. So I was like, okay, like I like the way that this chapter ends. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I think. I mean, I I liked the chapter more than I disliked it. Um, I'm enjoying getting frustrated with it. You know, it's it's fun for me. It's
You're
gonna
like
be
unflappable. You cannot be flapped,
it's
my
gonna be
friends.
it's gonna
Uh,
be upsetting if there isn't like great payoff. You know, um, I'm holding out hope that that it's going to pay off in the end. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed all of Herbert's endings so far. So I think that he'll be able to pull it off in a way that like satisfactorily rounds up my thoughts on the book. Um, I don't know if I don't think I'm going to be left with this feeling like, wow, that was like so good, or like, wow, the payoff was like really worth it. Like, I don't think I'll be stunned or blown away, but I think it will like be very serviceable in its conclusion
Yeah. I
at the
mean,
very least.
yeah, we'll see. My thoughts and feelings on this book are they're changing rapidly every time I read it. So we will see at the end.
All right, well, we talked about a lot of other things here and there, so it's not that that was all just the first chapter, but we spent a lot of time there. So let's see if we can get through these next four in about an hour or so.
Yes.
Okay. Second chapter. This one will be really quick. Honestly, I don't even really give a shit about talking about this chapter. This is the one. Antioch is writing a report to the Bene Gesserit, and she's struggling with the fact, like, should she include this knowledge that Hui and Leto are to be wed?
Yes.
Hui came to her, let her know, filled her in on the plan, just like Leto said, and she was explicitly told not to inform the sisterhood. And she like grapples with that, but ultimately decides not to because, one, it's not good to defy the God Emperor. Probably going to end in they're going to know that she said it, and then that
It's
comes
gonna
back
be
to bite
bad
her.
news for them.
And then, she says the same thing that Hui says. Everyone in the whole fucking galaxy is going to know soon enough. So,
Yeah.
no no real fault in just hanging on to that when it's not going to be a secret for very much longer anyways. Um, there could be some more interesting things in here hiding about, but that's pretty much what this chapter boiled down to me, and I thought it was fine to read, um, but not really anything I feel like getting into unless there's something you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Antioch continues to be a cool character, um, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that they're like kind of sending her on a mission. But yeah, it's pretty much a not a what you call it, not a what's the word for that? What's the word for that when it's like not the main thing?
Like a subplot or a side story or
Filler, filler, filler.
yeah,
It's like a little bit of a filler chapter.
a bit. I mean, I think like for the pacing, it's good, and I think it's cool that we get some insight into this Reverend Mother's inner thoughts. Um, would have been cool to see her maybe like consult some of her other memory
Yeah,
selves, to like maybe get feedback or advice or knowledge from them in some way that could inform her decision. Um,
yeah,
but
and
it's not really called on.
I also think although they did mention this a few times, it would have been cool to get a rundown in greater detail of her mentat abilities. They talk
True.
about her using them, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Kind of
True.
like what we see, hate do in Messiah. That would be
Yeah,
cool.
that also could have been a cool way to resolve that. She could have run like a logical mentat
Yes,
computation for herself to see like, oh, if I were to send this letter with the knowledge, this is how it would end most likely, with like me getting killed or something.
exactly. Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Right. For a kid, I think that Herbert kind of does this where it's like even if he gives like certain attributes to a character, if they aren't as relevant to the story, it's kind of easy for him to like underwrite them or
Yeah,
just write them well enough. Like I think like you're saying Antioch is interesting and is well written, I should say. But perhaps there are aspects about her that he could have taken a bit more advantage of if
yeah,
he had so chosen.
yeah. And again, there's more to go, but I think that's kind of a thing that is one of his weaknesses with Reverend Mothers is there often these very interesting characters that we just don't get to know about and don't get to see do cool shit, and
Yeah.
that's annoying.
Yeah, I think like especially here too with Leto, like Leto's pretty dismissive, obviously, of the Bene Gesserit in general, and he does have a kind of appreciation for specifically Antioch's character, but like he doesn't really have a respect for their own abilities or their own powers, and like he kind of like recognizes like, oh, they're one of the few people that like understand what it's like to have these like memory selves.
Yeah,
But I think because Leto himself as a character is so dismissive of them, that Herbert might have even thought like it would kind of do a disservice to Leto's point or perspective in that matter if he were to actually show Antioch having this like memory self conversation, because then you the reader might be like, well, hey, this seems just like the Leto chapters that I read, or like this seems pretty
yeah,
similar or pretty interesting.
yeah.
And
That's
then
true.
I think that could change the reader's perspective on that, and Herbert probably wants you to think more in line with Leto.
I think that's the point
I'd
of the
have to
whole
say.
book. like I think that's what he's doing this entire time is that you know, this is Leto's world. We are just living in it. You know, uh, especially like based on the way it's discusses controlling the narrative with history and truth and whatnot. I feel like it's actually very meta. Whereas like the book, similarly to how he reveals to Hui that like famous historians are actually him,
Mm-hmm.
writing uh with with a ghost, not a ghostwriter but a pen name, um that Frank Herbert could very well be one of Leto's pen names. Um, so that's kind of like one of the things about this book too is I feel like it does have an unreliable narrator, even though it's not always narrated. Because I feel like so much of it is Leto's perspective, even when he's not in the scene, he is in the scene.
Yeah, right. And that's kind of like why we keep saying we're waiting for like that fuller picture of having finished the book and to be able to like
Yes,
more clearly
exactly.
speak
Yeah,
on those things because I think that that is like some of the questions that are like left hanging throughout the whole experience. Yeah.
I'm already so interested in seeing what Leto's reign looks like from you know a few thousand years after it's over. I think that's going to be extremely interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we, her wide deer in the headlights eyes,
Yeah.
her expression that I'm told that she has when she understands these things.
Hmm.
One of the things that she says she like that clicks for her is oh, these people of the future, what will they learn about you, Lord? And Leto says something like, oh, I think, maybe she is the one who says it, but she's like, I think it's what I already know about you now,
Yeah.
that thousands of years removed, people are going to have this more compassionate understanding. They're going to realize through Leto's journals that he's left behind that Leto was secretly and personally carrying this heavy burden for the sake of humanity.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if that actually is what or how it plays out, you know.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Um if like, you know, like heretics in Chapter House are going to be like neo Letoites, that are just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
apologists for his reign,
yeah.
that I mean, I can see how that would maybe not be come off great, but we'll see.
I don't know. I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Um. Well, all right. Is there anything else you want to mention in the second chapter, or shall we hit the third?
Um you yeah, I think we're pretty good with number 2.
Yeah. Okay. Um. So the third chapter. Oh, this man, the shit really goes off in this chapter. Um.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is yep, this is the action scene.
Yeah, it is, and this was. I mean, I guess if there's one thing I could say about this book, I think this is maybe one of the best, definitely at least the most like visceral action scene that Herbert has written.
Yeah.
Like, so essentially, this it pretty much kicks off the chapter, and so there's these explosions that go off in the city, and straight away, um, Leto becomes enraged because he recognizes where the explosions are going off from at the Ixian embassy. And so his first immediate thought is that Hui is in, danger.
Yep.
And so he personally emerges from his underground lair and just destroys everyone.
He kicks
Um,
he kicks ass, kicks tail.
yeah, yeah, he really does. I mean, he,
He puts those flippers to good use.
yeah, not so useless now, right?
No, I mean he just fucking flails around and just fucking takes people out.
Yeah,
Just crushes them.
yeah. It really felt like that. Like I could like feel the impact of some of the things that Herbert was describing,
Yeah.
like the literal impact of like things colliding. And
Yes.
just like
Yeah.
especially with like say when he was driving his cart there, like I could like feel like the dull thuds of like bodies just slapping against
I
it as he
know.
like goes over them, like
Yep.
um and then the detail that like as he like spills out of the cart and just starts like slamming his body up and down on people, like he becomes like lubricated in their blood, like just
Yes.
this.
And
I
yeah,
don't know, it's so
he's
gross, like
covered in blood, and that in the water in that blood is hurting him. Yeah.
yeah,
Um.
which only causes him to like berserk out even
Yeah.
more.
Yes. Exactly. But this scene reminded me most of the Leto II we see at the end of Children of Dune, where he is Worm Sonic the Hedgehog and just goes berserk and fucking takes down Aaliyah in the end. Like
Right.
this is the same kind of action. We saw it briefly on the way to Own too with the face dancers,
Yes.
but this is definitely the best example in the book so far that we've gotten.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the biggest difference here though is like in terms of this and then like the ending of Children of Dune, like Leto still has so much control over his body at that point, like
I know.
really wearing the worm as a suit,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and he still has so much of his human identity then. But
I know.
here, like he completely, it's almost like he blacks out. This is like where
Yeah.
the worm really
The
takes
worm
over,
takes over. Yeah.
which yeah, is like really it kind of is like awe-inspiring to read. It's like I can imagine like the lasgun lasers like ricocheting off of him and shit. Like I would love to see. I know. I feel like for the most part, this book might suck as a movie, to be honest. But like something like this, like a scene like this, would be awesome to see done with like a big
Yes.
budget, with a really
Competent
strong
CGI.
imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so honestly, my dream now, this would be hilarious if this was done. I think it would be incredible. Is you know, Dune 1 has massive success. They immediately greenlight 2 sequels, also massive successes. They greenlight 2 more sequels. We get Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune. And in God Emperor of Dune, we get James McAvoy to reprise the role of Leto II.
Yes.
But the thing about James McAvoy now, though, is that he actually is a very he's a really great, highly regarded British actor. Like, I haven't seen a lot of his work, but apparently he's in he's in a few good things that are like really cult like favorites. And what's the one where it's like the multiple personality movie? Have you heard
Oh,
of that?
the one with M Night Shyamalan.
Well, James McAvoy
Split.
stars in it, so I don't know
Is he
what.
in that? Is that what you're thinking of?
I'm not sure if it's M Night Shyamalan, but apparently he was really good in that and plays a lot of different interesting characters.
Glass? Is it called Glass?
Maybe something like that. But
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I
but
know Samuel L. Jackson was in it.
I think he would actually do a pretty good job at in adult Leto too.
Probably.
Like not joking, but I think it would be hilarious if they chose him. Like if it ever got to that point, I think it would be fucking hilarious if they chose him to reprise the role. That would be the funniest shit in the world to me. And I think it would be good too. Um, Also, fun fact though about James
Yeah.
McAvoy that I only just found out. Um, he was in contention to be the 11th Doctor.
Oh. I'm really glad that they went with Matt Smith and his strangely square head.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Matt Smith would be an interesting idea for Leto too.
yeah, I can't see it really. I can't.
Okay. Anyways,
No, I mean, no matter who you get to play them, like at some point you got to be like, it's just going to be like your face CGI'd onto a worm body. You know,
yeah, exactly. I know.
you got to really trust the role there.
Yeah, you're gonna do you're gonna do a lot of acting with your face in this movie.
Right.
A lot of good facial expressions.
Anyways, what the fuck were we talking about? Oh, right,
Dune.
Leto. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Leto, killing everyone.
Yes.
Um, which was really cool. Yeah, even like the reaction from the fish speakers too. Like, because they're like the boots on the ground,
I know.
thinking that they're fighting with like God's righteous fury, and then like God shows up, and
Yep.
they're like, "Oh shit, God is angry," you know?
God is angry. I know. And also, God's here to save us. You know,
Yes,
like, and then I mean, he goes on to regret having done that in front of them for that
right.
very reason.
Yeah, he. I don't think he. I mean, one, he doesn't really consider that as a consequence, but like more so than that, he's not really considering the consequences. He's just
No,
like full on
he's in a
enraged.
blind rage,
Yeah.
which again is something he has not experienced in a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah, this seems to be the real like the recognition in himself that he's had this emotional reawakening,
Yeah.
just that he even can experience something like blind fury for the sake of Hui. He's like, wow, it's this singular person who has brought about these feelings in me again. And this is really like the inception point for that, or this is kind of like the point of no return where he realizes that this is the change that's been brought about in him now,
Yeah.
for better or for worse.
Yep.
There's a lot that happens in this chapter though, because we get that whole thing go down, and then he goes back. He has to he has like a drying chamber.
Yeah, he's got to cleanse himself of the blood water.
Yeah. He's updated on Hui's safety. He meets with the Bashar leader of the guards in the plaza, the fish speaker guards. Um, that's kind of right when he recognizes the fanaticism still in them, recognizes that, like you're saying, that he's kind of in this one foul swoop, sort of like created a kind of dependency. He's weakened the independency in his fish speaker guards, and he
Yes,
does regret
exactly.
that.
Yep.
Because of course his golden path ends in him dying and humanity needing to be like self-preservationist and making decisions for itself. They can't be relying on Leto, for their own sakes.
Yeah.
Um, and I keep thinking about like how much time Leto has left. He kind of says to himself, if he is going to undo this dependency in the fish speakers, it's something that needs to be done carefully and over a great deal of time.
Yes.
Probably like centuries.
Yep.
So, ugh.
I I've gotten the impression though. I mean, we definitely see time as different than to Leto, but I have been kind of getting the vibe that he does think the end is soon. Like it does feel like at least it feels like it's soon to him.
Yeah, right. I mean, even if it were, the thing that really just throws me off is like how much time we have left in the book,
Yeah.
you know? Because if he's going to meet his end in this book, then, okay. But if not, like, it feels like he might have another, like, 500 years left in his basic life expectancy, which
Yeah.
to him is not a lot necessarily.
No.
So yeah, like I can see that discrepancy, but I also get this feeling, like we've said, that this book will end with his death in some way.
Yeah. I mean, and
And there's
will
not
there
a lot of
be
book left.
will there be a time jump, or will
Right.
or will he die 500 years before his expected demise?
Yeah.
Will there be
I
a
don't know.
change within the golden path?
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
that's the
definitely.
thing that we're kind of that's the big thing that we're on the edge of our seats about, right?
Yeah.
Is if the golden path even succeeds, because that seems to be something that he is keeping from himself. He doesn't seem to know, or want to know.
No, yeah. I mean, he still needs to put in a lot of work to make sure that they're on that path,
Yeah.
and Hui's inclusion and the changes that she's making within Leto are big factors in affecting his focus, I guess, when it comes to making those decisions and ensuring that the golden path does continue the way
Mm-hmm.
that it needs to.
Yeah, definitely.
So, okay, so we get the Bashar thing. He's like, you can have a vacation. She's pretty stoked about that. Um, and then then he talks with Nayla over a communication device that they share. I think that's now, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay.
It is. Yeah, and it gives her like a metallic weird voice.
Yeah, right. And the big thing here is that Leto orders her to reveal to Siona that she is a fish speaker.
Yes.
And, he says, follow Siona's every order, tell her whatever she wants to know, this and that. Tell her exactly why you haven't told her you're a fish speaker this whole time. And he goes, all of it will be the truth, right? He's like, just tell her the truth. Of course, Nayla's not thinking about telling the truth. She's thinking about following Leto's orders.
Yes,
She
exactly.
sees
Yep.
telling the truth as its own, like, game, its own test. And so, like, she doesn't feel like she's being given permission to be honest, which I think is why Leto needs to, like, detail down to the last word exactly how she should say these things.
Absolutely. Yep.
Which I think is really interesting. But
Yeah.
but essentially Leto's just saying, tell her the truth, tell her everything.
That's gonna come to a head for sure.
Yeah, very soon. I think
Yeah.
within these next 5 that we read.
Nayla's gonna fuck something up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's even there's this part in the last chapter here, the Duncan chapter, where she says, like, what's the deal with Nayla?
I know. Yeah.
Her and Siona are like sisters,
Yep.
and I really wish that Herbert had taken the time to write them feeling more like sisters, because it does feel like this is going to be leading up to this kind of like huge betrayal in a way,
Yes.
where these characters are going to be at odds with one another. Maybe not, because the way that Leto talks about it and the way that it sounds like the plan is that Nayla is going to reveal this information but still be acting like she's a rebel sympathizer, and that Siona can, like, use Nayla's role in Leto's guard as a
Exactly. Yeah.
tool for the rebellion, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like,
She's gonna be a mole, but within the fish speakers,
right.
as opposed to within the rebels.
So it's not so much that like Siona's being told this thing and like her trust is shaken and like they're gonna immediately fight. But I do think something's going to happen where it'll get to a point like that. And I just wonder or not if it will fall flat because we're being told that they're like sisters, but they haven't really had a lot of interactions in the first place that we've seen, and the ones that they have had, they do kind of had a sort of camaraderie, but it's muddied a little bit because we know that Nayla is only doing this out of manipulation, following Leto's orders, and a lot of their like discussions and the things that they do together just like feel very utilitarian. Like it's in the service of the rebellion. Like they're never just hanging out, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
So I thought the sisters line was a little weird. I know we're not there and I'm jumping ahead of it, but I'm thinking about it now and I just wanted to
I
mention that.
I agree with you. I have not seen that. Certainly we've had what, one or two scenes with them together, and those scenes were pretty much like Nayla being like, "Oh, don't fuck it up! Don't fuck it up! Don't say I love Leto! Don't say I love Leto! Don't like
Yeah. I love Leto. Damn.
I know exactly, yeah. Um, so yeah, that's gonna be an interesting relationship that I do hope gets explained. There's no time really for development, but explained at the very least. Yeah, I don't know. It just this book, more so than all the other Dune books, is it's very weird in terms of plot and character development and pacing, and it's like a lot of things you don't want, like or I mean rather a lot of things that you want are not shown, and a lot of times when Herbert does that, that's a good thing. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't know I wanted this.
Yeah.
It's, we've talked about the art of withholding, right, before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like this is the first time maybe that there's too much talk and not enough showing
Yeah.
of what is actually happening. Um,
I think that's something that's holding it back a little bit too.
yeah,
Yeah. And part of that I think it also feels like there's sort of a deliberate return, and I think we've mentioned some of the parallels with this book as well. But going back to like the Messiah format, where largely it's pretty much just a character study, and
yes,
that almost every single chapter is just characters having conversations with each other. So it's like, and to top it all off, there's not a lot of locations. Like there's not a lot of like traveling or things like that. Like the characters are moving from place to place, but pretty much it's just the Citadel and Own.
yep,
So things kind of return to having that like smaller, intimate kind of feel, um, rather than the perspective shifting, plans within plans, chapter hopping that we got in the first Dune book and Children of Dune. Things are like very, very laser focused in on like five characters at best,
yeah,
in pretty much two places. And so it feels like all the things surrounding them that they talk about, the book's like, well, right, it's not really about that, is it? And that can be frustrating. So
exactly, yeah, yeah. Like there's a lot of stories that I would love to have been told like within this book. Um, what we're getting is very much a character study, which again I'll reiterate, I like that. I'm super into it. I love fucking long chapters of just conversations between characters that are very meandering and wool gathering, right?
yeah.
I'm a big fan of wool gathering. Um, but it just seems like we're missing out on so much,
Yeah,
which is sad.
right. You could it feels like you could have the same number of pages, and just be like, okay, well, just devote some of these chapters, even if it was like every 4 or 5 chapters, like just one,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
something else
I
to
mean
give
the
it a bit
yeah,
of that wider scope.
absolutely. Like the one time this happened is the chapter where Monio goes to visit Siona at the academy or whatever, and is like
Yeah,
warning her about her rebellious
yeah, and
streak.
that was like a 2 or 3 page chapter in the
Yeah,
first 5 or 10 chapters
yep.
too,
That's all it takes.
and it was just a recording.
Yeah, yeah. Like anything. Like
Yeah,
it
no, I
does not have
agree.
to be that substantial. Like any kind of like little slices of life.
Yeah,
I want to see more
that
slices of life.
chapter, right? That chapter, the chapter where Siona and Duncan go to Gorgoa, that gave us a lot.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
Still left me feeling a little puzzled, but like at least it gave us something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Siona is one of the main characters in the book. We don't know much about her at all.
No, no, and she hasn't been around in these five
I
chapters
know,
either.
I
It
know.
feels like she's gone.
Yeah,
I was really surprised. Feels like she'll have to turn up in the next five, given what's going on, and the other
yeah,
characters are talking about her.
yes,
Everyone is going to be at the Citadel very soon, so
yeah.
there's that.
Especially with the wedding, right? I think that's going to
Yeah,
be definitely
yeah, which is
a big
okay.
thing.
Well, here let's put a pin in that.
Yes, yes.
We'll talk about the wedding. Chapters 4 and 5 are pretty much just the same chapter, just split up between two characters. So um, we can talk about that pretty quick in just a few minutes, I
Yep.
hope. But like here, Siona is kind of like discussed again and brought into the fold because Leto wants to know what's up with the explosions, right?
Yeah.
And so they did say that there's rebel activity, but that it's mainly the Tleilaxu, and that they have some stupid name that Leto thought was
The
stupid.
the Tleilaxu contact element.
Yeah, yeah. He says that like, oh, they always have like such pretentious names or
Yep.
something. And so they say that Siona's at the Citadel. I think, right? Like it couldn't have been her
Yeah.
because I think she's already been brought to the Citadel,
She
even though
has, yeah.
we haven't really. I guess we knew that because when Duncan and Siona were together, the fish speaker had the orders to take her to the Citadel. That was Monio's wish,
Yes. Yep.
right? Like,
Exactly.
so there was a right lead up to that. But it felt weird to be reminded of that in a way, to have them be like, oh yeah, Siona's at the Citadel, so it's fine, and she didn't know about it, and this and that, and it's like, oh okay. So right, like this main character who seems to be pivotal to this plan is kind of just elsewhere.
Yeah, just not in the action whatsoever.
Yeah. So yeah. As a matter of fact, I forget where we get this information, so maybe I'll just bring it up now since we're talking about Siona. But some of Siona's role in Leto's plan is expanded on. Is that in the fourth or fifth chapters? Do you remember what I'm
Yes.
talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's kind of kind of groundbreaking stuff. Very exciting additions. I mean, it's mentioned he could foresee her usurping him,
Yes. Yeah.
taking the reins.
Yes. Yes, that Siona is being uh bred
Yeah.
to lead.
And it is kind of implied that if Monio had taken the spice, it maybe could have been him.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Leto says something like, "Oh, I had such high hopes for Monio."
Exactly, yeah, and he's just an old fuck now. 29 years old.
Yeah, yep. No, it's
You know.
that's it. Just dump him in a grave somewhere.
Yep. It's
Me
it's
too.
about that time. It's about that time.
Gonna go out back, send him to a farm upstate.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be happier at the glue factory.
um, yeah, no, this idea that Siona is pretty much next in line to lead the Empire is very intriguing. Um, of course, she doesn't know that, and she's not meant to know that. Um,
She must be tested.
right, she must be tested. And then also, like,
It's
if
got to be
Leto,
spice.
if
It's
she
got to be
knew,
spice agony, right? It's got to be spice
yeah,
agony.
yeah. And then also, if she knew that that's what Leto was trying to lead her towards, that she would never accept it. It's
Yeah.
one of those things that she needs to come to willingly on her own.
Yes. Yep.
So, yeah.
So will she be this leader that leads, you know, the Empire through the great time of darkness after Leto
Well,
dies?
what I thought was weird about it is like I kind of thought the idea is that you wouldn't have a leader in the same capacity anymore after Leto.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I mean the thing. That's a good point. You're right. I mean, it's. I don't necessarily think it's to end all leaders, but all tyrants, all Caesar types. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but like Leto also, um, says he understands and thinks about like that people given these great amounts of power and status, are inevitably going to be tempted to what he uses a really specific word like self uh pleasure or something or like self
Yeah.
so like it kind of goes back to like what we were saying at the beginning of this discussion with like okay, so you're going to cause a cataclysm so great that like humanity is going to ignore all classist divides, like
Yep.
rich and poor won't matter. I mean, like similarly, being skeptical about that, it's like so much pain and struggle that oh yeah, you'll still have emperors who rule over entire empires, but they'll just be nicer.
Yeah, I know that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're right. Yeah, I mean, who
I
knows
kind of thought
what?
this was ending with like a complete top to bottom restructuring.
Yeah.
Not to have the same structure, but have like people be like, oh yeah, well, we should be like more fair about these things. I want to be a good emperor. Like I don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like what Siona wants too, though. She doesn't want that either, and neither does Leto. But she's in a position of power. I mean, maybe she could make that happen. Prevent because obviously there will be a huge power vacuum once Leto dies, and similarly to transitioning into communism, you need a state. You after capitalism, you need the proletariat, the dictatorship of the proletariat, and a state. And eventually, the idea is that that transitions into a classless, stateless society. It dissolves away, But since there's going to be a vacuum in the immediate aftermath, where people could take the reins and use that power for whatever their motives may be, there will be need for some structure in the wake of it all.
Right. So we'll have a an interim emperor, perhaps
Maybe, yeah.
temporary emperor, temperor.
Temp,
Ooh,
te,
the
temp,
temperor.
the temperor. I like it. Um. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go pee really quickly, so we'll take a quick breather. Sound good for you?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. We'll be back. You're still streaming, so if you want to entertain people on
Nope.
Twitch, you know.
Nope.
All right.
Not
Beer.
interested. No
Okay.
one's listening.
All right. BRB.
Is it Josh? Is it Josh? Oh, hey Josh. Because I wasn't talking. Oh, you bypassed the compressor. Oh, god damn it, Connor. All you should have to do is press one button when you get back. You should just have to press one thing. You should just hit keep recording. Oh my god. Are you ready to go? Okay, let's do it. All right. So, anyways, um, so yeah, the Siona thing, whatever. Maybe we'll talk more about that in 4 and 5 quick. Um, I don't know. What else? Oh, right, and then Hui shows up after he talked with Nayla. Hui shows up. They have the whole discussion about the Golden Path. This is when they talk about Siona too, right? Okay, because they talk about sainthood. That's what it is. Leto says that
Yeah.
Hui
Yep.
has like the temperament of a saint, a literal saint. And then like Siona gets brought up into that discussion, and Leto's like, "Yeah, I don't know about a saint, but like maybe emperor, you know."
Hmm.
So yeah, and that brings up kind of the whole thing about aristocracy. You talk about that comes up again too. Um, but Yeah. Um. Actually, that covers more of the end of that chapter than I remembered. I kind of forgot when that whole Siona discussion happens, but it's here. It's at the end of this chapter. Um. And right, this is where Leto says, like, yeah, never try to persuade Siona of anything. Promise me, Queen.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm sure more to talk about there too. But I feel pretty good about what we covered. Is there anything else you want to mention from chapter 3?
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I wanted to point out is we get a little Salusa Secundus Harkal Ada shout out as well.
Yeah, I was considering touching on that too. I also thought that was interesting.
Just a fun little
Yeah, but
bit.
you know what I think it actually does in a interesting and really quick kind of way is this it really is an example of giving us a bit of that world building because so this Bashar fish speaker
Yeah.
um is like, oh yeah, I'll go visit my family on Seleucus Secundus. So we get, that she has Carino descent,
Mm-hmm.
Carino blood, that Seleucus Secundus is even still around. But honestly, for me, what kind of like hit me is that like, oh, they have families.
Yeah. Exactly.
Kind of in the same way that when Goigoa gets brought into the picture, and it's like, oh, so this other Duncan just had like a whole life, a
Mm-hmm.
whole family, and so it kind of you know forces us to pause and consider that like each one of these fish speakers then presumably has a family, that they're not
Yeah.
just not just I mean they are bred, right? I mean, I think they are made to have these qualities. That's why they're all like very stocky and
Yeah,
strong
they
and
are
well
bred.
built.
They are bred and they're trained, but there's definitely rejects, piles of
Right.
rejects, right?
Yeah. But yeah, they do have these like fuller lives than we're usually meant to consider. Um and like of course they don't really seem to mind that they have to sacrifice not seeing their families for who knows how long, years at a time, in service to like their literal actual god. Doesn't seem like too much of a trade-off for them. But
No.
yeah, just that is introduced as a part of what we now know about the fish speakers too, I thought was an interesting choice, and was pretty well done, I think.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's an honor too to become a fish speaker and their families are all incredibly proud of them, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. You can definitely imagine that. So, um, yeah, just right, just to give us that like one little bit of being like, hey, there is more to these characters, outside of what you see. That
Yeah.
they do have uh experiences and attachments to things that are elsewhere, that exist alongside these things but aren't relevant to the story. It's like, okay, cool. You know, um,
Absolutely,
those
yeah.
are the things, right? You don't even need to devote a chapter to it. Just a line like
Mhm.
that, I think, does a lot of work. So I appreciated that inclusion as well.
Yeah, it makes it all feel real.
Yeah. So I'm glad you chose to bring that up.
And also I like to imagine that Leto was very close to both uh Ghani and Faradin, aka Harkalata,
Yeah.
uh throughout the rest of their lives. And it seems like those are maybe the like the last true family that he's had. The I mean all of the others have been kind of like his creations essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. Going back to Harkalana too. At the end of Children of Dune, Leto's very intent on acquiring the Sardaukar from
Yeah.
from Faradin, from House Carino, and then we get this thing saying that the captain here has Carino blood. I mean, are we maybe are we meant to assume that the fish speakers are this far away ancestry of the Sardaukar themselves?
Yeah, they very well could be. They could be, the combination of the Atreides guards with the Sardaukar, or the Fedaykin or whatever with
Right.
Sardaukar.
Yeah. I wonder what old Shaddam the Fourth would think about that.
I know, I'm sure he's rolling in his grave.
Yeah.
At least it's not such a shame to be living on Seleucus Secundus anymore when every planet is a prison planet.
No, man. Anything and anywhere could be a prison if like you're a prisoner in your own mind.
It's a prisoner of the mind, man.
Yeah. Bug. All right. Let's wrap these up. It's just about 10 o'clock here. So chapter 4, we get the face dancer performance in celebration to Leto and Hui's betrothal. So it's public. Everyone knows. And Moneo kind of barges in afterwards and has this full-on conversation with Leto. And Moneo's, pretty pissed.
Yeah, he's
pretty
not
frustrated.
a fan.
His first assumption is that Hui has manipulated him through witchery.
Yes.
And Leto doesn't really argue against that. He's like, yeah, right, but like it's a witchcraft, that I follow willingly. I think,
Yep.
that's that it's not devious. Just a recognition that she too was bred for the specific purpose of wooing him, and he's like, well, it worked,
Yep.
and we
I've
kind
been
of
wooed.
both just accept that. So
I mean, he's so overcome with joy that he is able to feel things again. It's
right,
it's all worth it to him.
Yeah, this is where we get this whole, Leto's like, don't you see it, Moneo? I'm in love. I have all these emotions. Isn't it great? Each day is new opportunities. He's gonna have like live, laugh, love hung up behind him or some shit. Like, yeah.
He's like Elf when he hears what's her face singing in the shower, right?
Elf?
Yeah, the movie Elf with Will Ferrell.
I thought you were gonna say like when he sees Santa, but then he realizes that Santa isn't an imposter.
Oh no, because he falls in love in the movie with the girl that sings in the shower.
Yeah, she's not really an elf though, is she?
She's not an elf. No, neither is he. The thing is he was raised by the elves.
Oh right,
but
yeah.
he actually grew up his entire, childhood, thinking that he was an elf.
Yeah, but that's why he's like big Will Ferrell.
Yeah, so he was like
not like little Will
he was
Ferrell,
much bigger than all of the other elves, and and one day he was just like, well, I'm bad at all the elf things, and the other elves don't like.
Can you stop saying elves?
Well, the movie's called Elf, so I'm just using the plural form of the movie title. And so then basically, his adoptive elf father.
All right, I know what happens in Elf.
Okay, because at first you didn't. You thought that.
Well, it took me a second, but then I remember that he like fights Peter Dinklage in a boardroom.
He does, yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty problematic scene, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're no stranger to enjoying media with problematic material in it.
Frank Herbert would have never written that scene. I mean, just think of how gracefully he handled the
Frank,
jazz.
can you imagine Frank Herbert's Elf?
Yeah, that would be something. That would be
I
something else.
mean, let's not get into it.
Save that for another pod. We'll do a special episode where
I don't
we
know.
we do a rundown of
I don't know. I
Elf,
don't know if we. I don't know if we will. I don't know
Elf
if we will.
reinterpreted by Frank Herbert.
Anyways, yeah. So Monio's not really happy about this shit, but like he comes to accept it, you know,
Yeah,
as with all things with Leto, he kind of believes that all the things that Leto does are done in service to making decisions, for the good of the Golden Path.
yeah, yep.
And so he's like very world weary and everything again. He's like, all right, I know I'm going to be the one who has to help set all this shit up. So what do you need? He doesn't ask why anymore. He just says like, what do you need and where will it be? And this is where we get the wool gathering, because Monio's just trying to get this information, and Leto is off thinking like, oh man, like words are like really weird, man. and Monio's just like, God, I just asked like the simplest question. Like I just need an answer to this very simple question, you know? And Leto's like, oh, I was listening. I don't know. What is he, I kind of want to find the line, because I like what he says. But I don't know if I'll be able to.
Well, I mean,
Oh, I think it. Did you find something? What were you gonna say?
No, you go for it. You go for it.
Well, I think it was gonna be this. He says, Munio says, "What of my question?" And after this paragraph of Leto thinking to himself, Leto just says, "How like a limpet, the Ixian Slaylaksu fallacy clings to human affairs," Leto said. And I really love, Munio says, "Lord, it disturbs me deeply when you don't pay attention." They have a really good exchange. Monio and Leto, I think, continue to have kind of like the best back and forth, the best
yep,
rapport.
I agree,
and these characters.
And then I love that that like Leto is pleased that Monio used the word too.
Yeah, wool gathering, right? Yeah. That
Yeah.
Monio is the one now accusing
Yeah.
Leto of wool gathering. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's funny.
It is funny, yeah. It really is. There was a really good bit of humor, and then also like the kind of an interesting observation. Leto sees the influence that he wields, even on a personal level, with just one individual. He's still influencing and shaping Monio.
Yes. Yep.
Of course, but in like that godlike fashion, that like he's still like creating him through their interactions. It's like, now Monio says wool gathering because we had this conversation a couple days ago, or so it is cool to see Monio learn like that, or to be influenced by Leto, and to see Leto see that as well.
Yeah, and then at the end of it, we talk about the wedding party, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, this part was funny too. Because they're like talking about the fucking wedding registry, like they're gonna RSVP.
I know.
And Leto's just like, oh, send out. It'll be all the aristocrats and their families. And Monio's like, am I an aristocrat? And Leo's like, yeah. And he's like, so you want my family to come? And he says, does my family include Siona? And then Leto says, if she survives the test.
Mm-hmm. So that must be happening very soon.
Right. Yeah, before the wedding.
Yep.
So, of course, like that's all interesting. I thought it was interesting that Moneo even has other family to consider, though.
I know.
Leto's like, invite your whole fucking family, and it's like, well, I'm led to believe there's just Siona and like no one else. I kind of got this feeling that like Siona's mother was probably dead,
Yeah.
somewhere. like,
I mean, if think about Moneo, he's probably a very desirable Atreides male, so I'm sure he has like a fuck ton of kids.
I mean, I guess it's never been talked about.
Well, yeah, but you can assume though that that the breeding program, probably sucked him dry.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, only because he holds such a unique role of power within the Empire. Like he really is the second in command.
Yeah.
So, I could also see him not have to meet those same demands. Uh, doesn't really seem a point of conflict from what we've seen with them, anyways. Now,
No,
it's never
no.
been mentioned that he's been sleeping with anyone. Not even like a scene of him like starting a chapter, like leaving a room that someone else was in. Like none of that. So
I mean,
I really don't know.
we have the impression that maybe he has loved and lost in his life.
Yes, right. That's the only thing I could say is it sounds like there's a tragedy in his past,
Yeah.
and it could have to do with Siona's mother. It could have to do with another lover, but then he was forced to be with someone else due to the demands of the breeding program.
Yes, exactly, yeah. I just
That's
think
what's
I don't think
unclear.
it's I don't think it's super reaching to say that he could have a lot of kids and that would not be a surprise,
No, it's not
even though it
super
hasn't been
reaching.
hinted at.
Right, it's not super reaching. It's just that it's such a weird thing to bring up to be like, hey, invite the whole family, and it's like you haven't even brought up one other person. I mean, we're more than 250 pages into this book from my copy at this point in it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm over that threshold too.
um, and there's not a lot left. Somewhere between like 150 pages left, if that.
Yep.
Probably not even that much. And this is the first time I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that you're gonna say like, hey, invite your whole family. And Moneo's question is like, does that include Siona? Because from my perspective as the reader, that's the only family that's ever been discussed. So it's the only thing I'm going to think about when you say invite your family. There's no other people for me to consider. They don't even talk about it.
No, you're right. You're right. I see. I didn't get the impression that like there's some that there has to be some family that we don't know about because it hasn't been discussed. All that I got from that was like Monia was like, "Oh, so Siona can come then? Like you don't care if like she's there, you know?" And like Leto was just saying that everyone's family can come because he's like super excited for his wedding. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't even think that. I mean, we'll see what if we get like a whole swath of new Atreides characters that come up for this wedding. That'll be interesting, and I don't think it'll be totally super wacky, but I do get where you're coming from. I don't think it's going to
Yeah.
happen though. I think we are only going to see Moneo and Siona at the wedding. I don't think there's going to be some
Yeah.
extended family, but
No, I mean,
we'll see.
for the most part, I mean, I think so too, which is why I think it's a strange line. But
Yeah, yeah,
whatever. It's whatever. Okay. Do you want to wrap up to this last chapter?
yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's push onward.
So Moneo leaves, and as he's leaving, Duncan comes in, um, and Leto can tell immediately that
He's not
Duncan,
happy.
yeah, Duncan is very suspicious.
Yep.
And Leto has this thought like, oh, like it's happening now, or like, oh, it's kind of like this point of no return. Like he's, what did he call it? The sense,
Oh, yeah, yeah. The sense syndrome.
yeah, the sense syndrome.
Secret things that that might have been developed across the centuries of oblivion since they last knew awareness.
Right. So he's seen this pattern so many times, of course. Yeah, he's coined it,
Yep.
and he sees
Classic Leto.
this classically, though. He sees this as that that point of no return, right?
It's happened faster this time.
Yes. And so a part of me thought that Leto was going to have to straight up kill Duncan right
Yeah.
in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
That Duncan was going to do something stupid, because Leto kept trying to get him to like realize his plan and
Yes.
why he hides these things. And Duncan just can't grasp it the way Leto wants him to. And so Leto keeps being like, "Oh, I'll let's try one more time," or this and that. And I really thought it was going to end with, yeah, Duncan doing something stupid and trying to get the upper hand on Leto and Leto just killing him.
No, I know. I mean, maybe that's wedding day, right?
Maybe.
I don't know, but yes, the tension does mount here, and I mean, Leto is just kind. Yeah, I mean, it is reminiscent to that first chapter with Duncan and Leto, where Leto kills him,
Mm-hmm.
because Leto is just like having fun with it the entire time, and oh, silly Duncan,
Yeah.
until he's blindsided by Duncan pulling out the laser gun.
Right. And Leto is kind of blindsided by something Duncan does in this chapter. Even though it's not pulling out a las gun. This Duncan does something that no other Duncan has done before.
Yes.
He says that Leto has robbed him of the magic of his life.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. And that really fucking speaks to Leto. That's talking his language right there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, Leto has like just been revitalized.
Yep.
To like this emotional essence of life. And right, here's Duncan accusing him of, causing him to live out this Gola hell. And yeah, I mean, Leto does really perk up, because he's been accused of a crime. That's how he starts it off.
Yes.
Leto is like so fascinated. He's like, "Oh, what crime have I committed?" And then that's where Duncan says, the crime of stealing the life, the magic of his life.
Yeah, that's really well said, and that's the thing that Leto bloviates about all the time too. Is the
Yeah.
magic in life and the surprises and um the ephemeral nature of it all for most people and for himself as well. And he even says, like, I'm not going to last long either, but Duncan can't understand that coming from my end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really the big thing I think is like that Leto's rebuttal to Duncan's claims I think are pretty weak.
Mm.
Only in that Duncan's also saying that he doesn't have any true freedom, and so, Duncan's like, "Can I just like go? Can I go to a frontier somewhere
Yeah.
and just like live out my life?" And Leto's like, "Well, you can, I'm not stopping you. I'm not the bad guy." but uh,
Other
you
Duncans have
know,
tried and they didn't get far.
yeah, right, yeah, it's kind of this dual thing. It's a veiled threat
Yep.
where he's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to stop you, but right, I mean, like if you go, you're not going to have some cushy life. You can't just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he says he's not stopping him, he
It's
there's
not.
like a
It's not.
clear
It's not me. It's the fish
there's
speakers.
a clear implication, yeah,
Yeah. Of course.
of a consequence there.
Mm-hmm.
And then also he's like, well, there is going to be no such peaceful frontier, unless my my plan of the golden path is able to come to fruition,
Yes.
is able
Yep.
to meet its end, and you need to be a part of that.
Yep.
Um, and moreover, if you're not going to be, then I can just kill you and make another Duncan who will.
Yeah. Exactly. I know. And
So
it makes me wonder: does Leto think that what, like, at some point, he's going to talk to either this Duncan or the next one or whatever, and it's gonna click. It's all gonna click to him, and he's gonna be on board. Because as far as we know, it always ends relatively similarly, um, or not, or a lot of the time at least.
yeah,
O- you know, Only a few of the Duncans have died of old age or
yeah,
natural causes. Um, so we're led to assume that this plays out similarly across, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years. Uh, yeah. So, does Leto think that that's possible? That eventually, given the right circumstances, the right timing, that Duncan will come to and be like, "Oh shit, the Golden Path. Oh man, I can't believe I missed all that." The first 500 times around or whatever. Like,
yeah. Well, the thing is I don't think so, and I think it goes back to I forget if this was one of the earlier chapters or if this was the end of the last section of chapters, but Leto's talking with Kui, I'm pretty sure again, and he's saying that he chooses his the people that he works with because they're rebels,
yeah.
and that like that rebellion, causes them to be able to like make decisions for themselves, decisions that they think are the best decisions, and and what am I trying to say? Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying.
I guess right. So it's that because Duncan doesn't because Duncan does not want to go along with the Golden Path, because he is at odds with Leto. That's what Leto finds valuable about having him in his service. That he is going to be like a free thinker.
Yeah, it's true. But also, Leto thinks that the best, or rebels make the best diplomats or aristocrats or whatever. That
Yeah, yeah,
like, so he stated that before, and that's been the turn that he has pulled off with Monio, that he is expecting to pull off with Siona. So I mean, there might be a part of him that does think maybe I'll convert Duncan once and for all to actually be a team member here, and not just my token rebel.
maybe. I don't know if it really
I don't know.
matters to him.
I mean, I think it might just be more of a game to him,
Yeah,
try and get Duncan on this side. Oh, that would be a surprise for me if this Duncan actually aligns with my plan.
yeah,
Then there's another
yeah.
interesting passage here too, that I liked, where Duncan's thinking to himself, you know, is there some way to shock myself into remembering all of my past lives?
Yes.
And would I then understand the truth about all of this? Um, and yeah, that's a crazy thought. It's a horrifying you know, idea.
It is. It is. He comes into this room like completely disassociating. Like he's like
Yes.
not really in reality or not sure that he is. Um, and yeah, he's very hung up on thinking about all the different lives that he's led in some way. Um, so he's another character. He's obviously not the same as Leto, but like to him, it's almost like he has had all these like other past lives that he's not able to access. He
Yeah.
only has one at a time, but because he's always the same person, there is that sort of overlap where he's made decisions that he likely would have made given those same circumstances that the other predecessors had. And so he
Yes.
does feel like this weird like out of time kinship or brotherhood with them,
Yeah.
which is weird. Yeah, it's a weird relationship to have.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and it would be interesting if there was a way, how they shocked Hate into regaining his Duncan memories. Um, but I think that's a step too far. That's um, it makes sense given the source of the Gola being the original cells. That makes sense. Tapping into
Right.
those memories. Um, but yeah, this is all kind of like restricted territory for him. There's yeah, no hope of uncovering, you know, the fate of all of his predecessors.
No, or if he does uncover it, it will probably end poorly for him.
Yeah, yeah, almost definitely.
So yeah. Um but, their discussion goes on for a while here too, but I think the big thing, of course, is Duncan kind of ends on this threat. Um, he feels like very locked in. He feels in a way like kind of defeated, that he doesn't have these freedoms. He doesn't have the ability to go and live the quiet life he might want
Yeah.
elsewhere. And so he's like, well, I guess I'm going back to the Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? That's where Hui is.
I know.
So maybe I'm gonna go and spend some time with Hui,
I know.
Leto.
Oh God.
And yeah, Leto's just like absolutely
No fucking way.
fucking not. Yeah, I mean, uh, man, I really really wonder if this is an empty threat or not, or are we going to get a chapter of like Duncan trying to seduce Hui out of spite? You know?
I know. I mean that would be very interesting. I mean there like I would say there's no way that we would, you know, fuck Duncan
Yeah,
while being, Leto's fiance.
yeah,
But he is Duncan Idaho.
he is.
And that's a handsome man.
Apparently he's like the most handsome man in the whole galaxy.
Yes. Yep.
He has an allure over like all women,
Yeah, it might might be irresistible to
and
Hui. Who
he
knows?
has one very important thing that Leto does not.
It's very very true. Tleilaxi wise.
Yeah, it's funny when Duncan hears, it gets it confirmed that they're gonna get married, and he looks over Leto's warm body, and Leto's just like, man, he's always looking for my
I
fucking
know.
dick, always.
Oh, and then he's like, yeah, I thought about like installing a fake one, so
Oh
so
yeah,
like
yeah,
people don't like look at me weird.
yeah, right. Oh my god, he's like, he had to stop himself from laughing. He's like,
I
yeah,
know.
I shouldn't. Yeah, if I ever make another Duncan, I'll be sure to have a fake fucking cock on me next
Yeah.
time he comes in.
Oh, that's the funniest thing ever.
God.
This is a weird ass book. It really is. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. It really is.
Remember those first few chapters of Messiah when we were like, wow, this shit's gotten weird. And look where we are now.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah. We didn't know.
we didn't ask for this.
No,
No.
we did not. It was always there. It was always there.
Yep.
But yeah, I did not foresee us getting to this point exactly
No, neither did I. Neither did I.
with a giant penis man considering attaching a fake penis on him
Yeah.
to uh to try and confuse the fucking nothing character from the first book that he just revives in
I know.
perpetuity for thousands of years. I don't know. It's too much sometimes.
It's absolutely insane on the surface level.
Yeah.
Um but I do like how Leto's last thought goes, how like a little boy he is, Duncan is. The oldest man in our universe and the youngest, both in one flesh. After
Yes.
after Duncan walked away like a little brat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, they're both being brats, but
I was about to say, but like Leto's response is so childish too. Yeah, he's
Yep.
like, "No, you better fucking not."
I know. Yeah.
You know, I mean, like if you were God, couldn't you just be like, "Oh, well, you do what thou wilt." You
Yep.
know, it's like
He's not
not
God
gonna
though.
affect any. No, no, he's not. He's not.
I mean, this is him in like back in emotional puberty, you know. He's feeling
Yeah,
all those feelings for the first time again. It's I mean, if this is not a reason to kill the Duncan, I don't know what is.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's not looking good.
No.
So for Duncan, anyways, I don't think he's gonna be on a frontier.
I'm
Not,
hoping that Siona, Duncan, and I mean, Nayla's never going to turn, so I hope that Siona and Duncan team up and kick some butt.
yeah, yeah. That could be interesting. Right. I know before we were kind of discussing the possibility of Siona's role being that she would be like the one to potentially kill Leto, and
Yeah,
that could be part of Golden Path. But Leto, according to what he says to Hui, does not seem to be what he has in plan for Siona.
no, but
If
it's
all goes the way that he wants,
yeah,
so
but it still could be. You know, she could
it
kill
still
him.
could be.
She could kill him and then take his throne.
Yeah, yeah,
That happens. That's how it
could
works
be.
sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. I think it would be just kind of a I don't know, not the rebellion I was expecting. If it ends with the defeat of Leto and then just making someone else emperor, I feel like you would want to reestablish or not reestablish, try to establish something new
Yeah,
because otherwise you just continue the cycle with someone else. And I would hope that the rebellion would consider that, but we'll obviously too early to tell what their end goal is other than just like trying to defeat Leto.
yeah,
We haven't
exactly.
even heard of any plans for what would happen if
Yeah.
that's a success, so
Mm-hmm.
who knows.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I think that's all I got for this chapter.
Yeah, pretty good. Do you think we're gonna get the wedding in the next 5 chapters?
I think so. This is moving very fast, so I think we are gonna get the wedding in the next 5 chapters.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking there's enough going on, and like now everyone it seems like is going to be going back to the Citadel. I think the wedding is going to be like the climax,
Okay.
like the full, the full
Yeah.
on like
Yeah.
um My thought, I don't think it'll happen for a bit still. We might have more preparation, but you know, like we always say with Herbert, it could go either way. It could be the next fucking chapter. So,
Yeah, exactly. No way to know.
all right, cool. Um, yeah, I'm good too.
Well, folks, if you want to contact us, you can email us at dunedudespod@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at dunedudespod. Connor is in charge of the Twitter account, so uh,
It's very active.
that's up to him. Yeah, it's very active. It's a lot of fun. Also, you can find us at Krubs TV on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time,
Don't forget to RSVP to Leto and Hui's wedding.
hell yeah.
You don't have to say hell yeah every time. It feels like sometimes it's appropriate to say hell yeah, and then sometimes you don't need to say hell yeah. All right. you're the edgier, cool.